What's up, everybody? My name is Tucker. In today's video, we're going to be talking about 5 offseason moves that have worked out incredibly well for these teams. If you enjoy the video, make sure to leave a like rating on it. Check out my socials in the description as well. And let's go ahead and get started. Okay, first up on the list is an NBA draft decision. One that was, I would say, controversial, surprising at the time. And that was Toronto taking Scottie Barnes with the 4th pick in the draft. We talked about Scottie Barnes in the past. I did a whole rant about him in a previous rookie video. But when I came up with this list, there was no way I could make it and not include him on it. So Barnes was a late riser in the draft process. It seemed like there was a pretty solid top 5 or 6, and Jonathan Kuminga was largely a part of that top 5 or 6. And it seemed like we were going to go in some combination, Mobley, Smith, Cunningham, and then the 4th pick was going to be Jalen Suggs, and the 5th pick was kind of up in the air. Yeah, Toronto went ahead and jumped all that and decided to take Scottie Barnes with the 4th pick, and it has looked like a fantastic decision for them. Even if Jalen Suggs was awesome in Orlando, which he hasn't been to begin this season, Barnes has looked like just a perfect Raptor type of player. He's long, he's athletic, still a bit raw offensively. I'm sure they'll develop him. He plays incredibly hard defensively, but he also has some sneaky skill to him as a passer, as a bit of an offensive initiator at times, even some shot making and some shot creation. They're not just sticking him in the corner, and he's going to follow probably a same sort of development path as someone like OG Anunoby, but with a much higher ceiling. Scottie Barnes, if he's an all-star within the next 4 years, I wouldn't be surprised at all. And going out on that limb and taking a bit of a leap and going and getting him with the 4th pick in the draft when it seemed like everybody thought that they were going to take Jalen Suggs with the 4th pick, turned out to be, at least so far, granted it's early, a really, really good decision for Toronto. Next up, the Washington Wizards, who have looked really good to begin this season, made a lot of significant changes to their roster, most notably trading away Russell Westbrook, but it's multiple different things. It's not only trading Westbrook, but it's what they got back for him and getting out from the money, but getting multiple different solid NBA players like Kuzma, Harrell, guys that have been important to them to begin the season, but also then going out and getting a replacement for him in Spencer Dinwiddie, who has been a really, really nice combination alongside Bradley Beal as an on-off ball player, which him and Beal kind of both share. Like, it doesn't really matter who has the ball and who doesn't. They both can kind of be on off. They both can space the floor. They both can attack the rim. They both can play make. And like, Dinwiddie has enough size and length to at least make them relatively competitive on the defensive end of the floor. And it just follows this theme for Washington of, we have Bradley Beal. He's our star. He's the guy that can go for 30 on any given night. But then we've got over here Montrezl Harrell, who can go for 20-10 at any point. We've got, KCP, who can guard and defend and shoot a little bit. We've got Kuzma, who can do some individual shot creation. We've got Dinwiddie, who I just talked about. We've got Denny, who's been playing better. We've got Rui, who's going to come back at some point. And this trio of bigs that continue to run in and out of the game. And it's just a really fun team to watch, but it's also one that's super well constructed for the regular season, and a team that's probably going to end up making the playoffs this season as a result of some really, really shrewd offseason moves that, as I've said, have worked out really, really well to begin the year for them. Now, do they have the same level of ceiling with Dinwiddie as opposed to Russ and Beal? I mean, based off how Russ has played so far in LA, maybe they do, but that's not really the point, because not only is it working on the court, but off the court, they've provided themselves so much more flexibility when it comes to, cap space and stuff into the future. And if they play well this year, like, I'm no longer convinced that this is a situation that Beal is going to try and ask his way out of. And that is a huge, huge win potentially for Washington moving forward. Next up, the Cleveland Cavaliers. I don't think I've talked about the Cavs this much since LeBron was there. They are a legitimately fun basketball team to watch. I mean, defensively, they are all over the place. They've got, they've got Mobley, who has looked incredible as a rookie. They have, Darius Garland, who's stepping up in his first couple years in the league. But the guy I want to talk about is Jared Allen, because I think when people saw that Jared Allen got re-signed to 5 years and $100 million, they all thought, wow, that's a huge overpay, especially, related to me, at least, when I was making comments about how Rashawn Holmes is overpaid, and generally you don't want to pay bigs a ton of money because it's not that difficult to replace them. But Jared Allen has a more unique skill set than most bigs do, and he is more on that Clint Capella type level, guys that do get paid between $15 to $20 million a year, because they are above, like, really, really good at a handful of different things that are really critical when it comes to winning basketball games. And for Jared Allen, those things are protecting the rim, rolling to the rim, and a little bit of spacing as well. Not a ton, but at least a little bit that you do have to pay attention to it. I've really enjoyed Jared Allen's game since he was in Brooklyn. He was one of my favorite Nets to watch because he just challenged everything at the rim. He didn't care. And good luck trying to score on Cleveland at the rim. If Mobley and Allen are in there together, Mobley has enough quickness and versatility to stay in front of some perimeter guys if they're driving to the rim and switch on to them in ball screens. And Jared Allen has long enough arms that he can cover so much ground that, you know, he can stand at the rim and that he can go out and close out as well. I mean, Cleveland is a legitimately scary defensive team. And they're like really only a few pieces away from being a really, really Eastern Conference team, in my opinion, into the future. If Darius Garland is the guy, if he's the answer, if he's the backcourt player they need, Mobley's awesome. Allen is awesome. They've got some other scores as well and some flexibility to make some moves. Cleveland, with the one selection, not only of Mobley, but getting Jared Allen in that James Harden trade and re-signing him, which is the move we're talking about specifically here, has completely changed the trajectory of their franchise and organization, in my opinion. Next up, we have the Chicago Bulls. I talked about them, or I kind of talked about them adjacently in the previous video to this, where we talked about moves that teams were regretting. And I'll admit, I wasn't incredibly excited about the DeRozan aspect of this, but I have to give them credit. Caruso, DeRozan, and Lonzo Ball have been awesome for them. They've been a huge part of creating the new identity of this team as a really strong defensive team. And the DeRozan and Levine combo is really good. I mean, they can each, together combined, they can each go for 50 pretty easily on any given night. Lonzo fits incredibly well with everybody, and Caruso is like mini Lonzo. Like, he's not the same level of playmaker and passer, but he just makes winning plays. He defends, he shoots, he's in the passing lane, he fits with anybody you want to put on the floor. And that was one of my concerns for Chicago coming into the year. It was like, how does this fit? How do they put together lineups that make sense? And unfortunately, Patrick Williams is going to miss the entire year, and I thought he was really the one guy they had that could be super versatile like that. But it's turned out that Caruso and Lonzo are those guys that bring them versatility. You put those two guys on the floor with pretty much anyone else, and you're going to be at least half decent defensively, and you're not going to suffer offensively either. So I have to absolutely give them credit for making the moves that they did and for making the number of moves that they did, because it kind of seemed like, okay, they got Lonzo, cool, but then they also signed Caruso. It's like, that's interesting. And then the DeRozan thing, which was the one that I really didn't agree with, but he's been great. I mean, they can score from all three levels of the defense. They're one of those unique teams in the league that if the three-point shot isn't falling on a given night, they can still pretty easily score 110 points, because they've got Levine, who can get to the rim, score in the mid-range, and DeRozan, who's one of the best mid-range scorers the league has seen in the last 15 years. And so that versatility offensively and defensively is not something that I expected out of Chicago to begin this season. Hopefully they can continue it. I think the loss of Patrick Williams is certainly going to hurt them, and I talked about previously the Vucevic trade potentially being a mistake for them. But at the end of the day, I have to give them credit for those trio of moves they made in the offseason. And last up, you want to talk about, a relatively small signing that has paid huge dividends for their team. And there's a handful of them around the league, and Brooklyn has certainly seen no shortage of them over the last year and a half or so, thinking about bringing in someone like Blake Griffin and things like that. But I mean, Patty Mills might end up making a huge impact by the time we get to the postseason. And he just gives them another shot maker that once I saw, his impact on this team, I really started to think back to that Bucks series last year. I was like, really, if the Stars or Harris weren't really hitting their threes, we didn't really have another option, right? So like when all three guys were playing, it was Harden, Kyrie, KD, Harris, and Blake. And Blake, you're not really counting on to make shots, and the other guys are going to have the ball in their hands a ton. And then it's Joe Harris, and Joe Harris really struggled in the Bucks series, but he had to just keep playing because we didn't have another guy we could really put out there to space. It was like Bruce Brown, and he's not going to space the floor. But having another option now in Patty Mills that can close games, that can hit 3 threes in a quarter and really turn things around, it really makes them feel less star-centric. And that's how they felt to begin this season. Obviously, KD and James Harden are a huge part of what they do. But even with Harden not playing particularly well to begin this season and still kind of trying to figure it out, they've had a pretty decent record, not as good as I had hoped that they would be, but there's a variety of different reasons for that. But ultimately, I mean, the Patty Mills addition has been incredible. And I knew it was going to be a big deal. I just didn't think it was going to have this much of an impact in terms of their actual record. Now, I'm well aware that I'm sure there are more moves from this offseason or previous, last year past the trade deadline that had a huge positive impact on different teams around the league. So I'm definitely down to make another video like this. You guys let me know down in the comment section below if you think I missed any other entries that should have been on this list. But that is going to be the end of today's video, and I thank you guys very much for watching. Once again, my name is Tucker. If you missed any of my previous videos, including kind of the sister video to this one, we talk about moves that teams are regretting, be sure to check out the box on screen. Leave a like rating if you enjoyed the video as well. And yeah, once again, my name is Tucker. Hope you guys have an awesome rest of your day, and I will see you all next time.